Val Kilmer. He was one of the brightest stars of the 90s, handsome, talented, and utterly devoted to his craft. He delivered leading roles in films we now consider classics: the action-packed Top Gun, the biographical drama The Doors, the western Tombstone, and the crime drama Heat. But as the new millennium rolled in, Kilmer's career took a downturn. As for his personal life, he faced one of the most challenging times and nearly walked away from the film industry altogether. Val Kilmer was born into a well-off family, the son of an aerospace equipment supplier. From a young age, Val showed a flair for the dramatic, donning makeup and putting on impromptu plays with his brothers. As he grew older, he left the suburbs of Los Angeles for New York City, where he enrolled in the prestigious Juilliard school. It's worth noting that not only did Val get accepted into one of the world's most renowned art schools, but he also became its youngest student ever. A triumphant moment, but it was overshadowed by a tragedy. Around the same time, Val's younger brother Wesley had an epileptic seizure in a hot tub and died en route to the hospital. "I'm sick of sight without the sense of feeling," Val quoted from a Nickelback hit years later, describing the profound emptiness he felt during that period. To combat his desolation, Val turned to the Christian Science movement and his acting. At Juilliard, he was a force to be reckoned with, shining in Shakespearean productions and quickly amassing a circle of admirers, and not just among fellow students. Word of this promising actor reached Francis Ford Coppola, who offered Val a role in The Outsiders. And what did Val do? He turned down the master director because he had his heart set on a Broadway play, Slab Boys. In a similar vein, he almost missed out on getting to know Cher. The 30-year-old singer, smitten by either Val's good looks or his stage performances, probably both, wanted to meet him through mutual friends. But Val was hesitant. If it had been Brigitte Bardot, sure. But Cher, to him, was just a pop singer making TV appearances. However, once he got to know her better, Val warmed up to her, and she was soon cruising around with him on his Harley. Val Kilmer's main idol was Marlon Brando, and since Brando transitioned from theater to film, Kilmer followed suit. His debut was in Jim Abraham's comedy Top Secret. While a script about a unique Elvis who goes to perform at a festival in East Germany and gets into adventurous escapades didn't particularly impress Val, he liked Abraham's comedy, The Kentucky Fried Movie. And he was attracted by the technical challenges, especially the need to master the acoustic guitar, which took Kilmer 4 months. He then appeared in the comedy Real Genius. No particular preparation was required for this role. Val came to the casting dressed as his eccentric character and ate croissants, with the crumbs falling into his pants. Kilmer was approved for the role but nearly fired, since during rehearsals he was buried in the script and ignored his colleagues. And when filming began, he deviated from the text, interpreting the character in his own way. It's no surprise that afterwards, Kilmer was labeled a difficult actor. Top Secret and Real Genius were not major successes, but Tony Scott became interested in Kilmer. He was planning to shoot the action film Top Gun and saw Val Kilmer in the role of Iceman, who opposes Tom Cruise's character Maverick. During their meeting, the director said the script was so-so, but there would be jet fighters. Talking about the planes, Scott enthusiastically waved his hands and made noises, imitating jet fighters. The director's enthusiasm is what won Kilmer over, and he started preparing for the role. Val created a backstory for Iceman, suggesting he had an authoritative father who neglected him, which is why Iceman is such an arrogant perfectionist, trying to earn his father's favor. With all due respect to Kilmer's efforts, few appreciated his dramatic development of the character. When Top Gun was released, no one discussed Iceman's psychological depths, but girls were excited by the beach volleyball scene where Val showed off his athletic torso. Additionally, the suggestive exchanges between Iceman and Maverick became popular.
You can be my wingman anytime. Bullshit. You can be mine.
Top Gun became the top-grossing film in the US for 1986, and Kilmer's popularity soared. He was then hired by George Lucas, who produced the high-budget fantasy Willow, where morphing technology was used for the first time. But Kilmer was not interested in the film's technical merits. His character, Mad Mardigan, seemed cliched to him, plus there were significant events occurring in his personal life. Kilmer's co-star in Willow was Joanne Whalley, whom the actor had been smitten with for 4 years. Their story began in London during the filming of Top Secret, when Val went to a theater and saw an actress on stage who, as he described, filled him with light. He hadn't dared to approach her then, but now he was ready to act. Wally brushed off his advances, so Kilmer decided to leverage a famous ex-girlfriend, whose name he doesn't disclose. The ploy worked. Seeing the famous beauty flocking around Kilmer, Wally realized this blonde actor was indeed a catch in the matrimonial market. The pair traveled to Kilmer's beloved Africa, got married in the equally sentimental New Mexico, and honeymooned in Tahiti, where his idol Brando resided. Over the next few years, Joanne gave birth to 2 children. Kilmer was so in awe of her first pregnancy that, experimentally, he grew a belly of his own. Regrettably, this was 3 years before the filming of the comedy Junior. At this stage in his career, Kilmer was uninterested in mainstream roles, so parts in the detective story The Murders in the Rue Morgue or the neo-noir Kill Me Again held little appeal. Val aimed higher. He tried to land roles in Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas and Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Eventually, Kilmer managed to work with seasoned Vietnam War veteran director Oliver Stone and secure the lead role in the drama The Doors. Secured might be a mild term. Fought for would be more apt. The competition was fierce. Both Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage wanted the role of the iconic rock group's leader, Jim Morrison. But unlike these actors, Kilmer not only bore a strong physical resemblance to Morrison, but also possessed a rich voice timbre. Most importantly, he learned to sing baritone like the rock legend and achieved vocal indistinguishability. When Stone and the Doors musicians heard him, they couldn't discern between Jim and Val. Even Kilmer himself struggled at times. During filming, he demanded to be called Jim. On one audition, striving for realism, he shook actress Caitlin O'Haney so violently, she reported the incident to the police. To avoid a scandal, Kilmer, Stone, and the production company settled by paying her $25,000. Nonetheless, these unfortunate circumstances didn't overshadow the film's success. When The Doors was released, it resonated with critics and audiences, propelling Kilmer to the forefront of the most promising young actors of his generation. His dream was realized. He was now a major dramatic actor, not just in the theater but on the silver screen. The early 90s marked an ascent in Kilmer's career, though there were some missteps. With roles in Thunderheart and The Real McCoy, he powerfully rebounded with his portrayal of the legendary gunslinger Doc Holliday in the western Tombstone. As Val recalled, he got a script penned by Kevin Jarre and pictured his hero as a fallen aristocrat, mocking the society that he couldn't fit into. Moreover, Kilmer dived not only into the psychological depths of the character, but also mastered the technical aspects, particularly playing the piano. However, once on set, like other actors working on the movie, Kilmer faced challenges. Jarre, who wasn't just the writer but also the director, struggled with the camera angles, often capturing unintended shots. The actor quickly realized that they were dealing with a rookie. George P. Cosmatos stepped in to replace Jarre, but behind the scenes, it was Kurt Russell playing the lead role of Wyatt Earp who took charge. Russell had heard rumors of Kilmer being a difficult actor, but in reality, didn't find him that troublesome. Sure, there were quirks. Kilmer blasted Led Zeppelin in his trailer and once even chowed down on a locust that had invaded the set, but there was also plenty of praise. Michael Biehn, who portrayed the villain Johnny Ringo, said he never met Kilmer, only Doc Holliday. So immersive was Kilmer's performance. Biehn fondly remembered a day off when Kilmer approached him to rehearse their final duel scene. They decided a close-up shootout would be more dramatic than a traditional long-distance one, spending a full day perfecting every move for that 1-minute scene.
I'm your Huckleberry.
By the way, Kilmer's line, "I'm your Huckleberry," is an idiom, meaning, I'm the man you're looking for. After Tombstone was released, the phrase became iconic, and years later, Val used it as the title for his memoir. For his portrayal of Doc Holliday, Kilmer got nominated for an MTV Movie Award for Best Actor. There's still chatter that he should have snagged an Oscar. As one fan aptly put it, Kilmer was to Tombstone what Heath Ledger was to The Dark Knight. Tombstone wasn't a box office hit, but did well in home video sales, eventually gaining cult status. Kilmer's stellar performance didn't go unnoticed, and at 33, producers approached him with an offer he couldn't refuse: the lead role in the new Batman film. The deal entailed appearing in 2 sequels, with a whopping $10 million for the third. Kilmer agreed but soon faced disappointment. Joel Schumacher directed the film and he and Kilmer clashed. Kilmer, a Juilliard grad, saw Batman as a complex character, reminiscent of Ovid's Metamorphosis. Schumacher wanted a straightforward action flick. Tensions were further heightened by the Batman suit. It was stuffy, cumbersome, and restricting. Kilmer likened it to a torture device and complained it took him 45 minutes just to take a bathroom break. So it's no surprise that when Kilmer once approached Schumacher to discuss his character's motivation for a scene, Schumacher dismissively snapped, "You're just Batman, just go over there and do it." Kilmer was deeply wounded. There was no chance for a productive relationship after that. To make matters worse, despite an agreement that the Batman sequel would be filmed in 2 years, the studio initiated production in just 1. By that time, Kilmer had already begun preparations for Heat and decided that he'd had enough. Probably the only time the actor's difficult nature worked in his favor. Batman Forever with Kilmer had moderate success, but the sequel, Batman and Robin, where George Clooney replaced him, tanked at the box office and was ruthlessly ridiculed by critics and superhero fans alike. Meanwhile, Kilmer's role in Heat, which is considered his benchmark today, almost slipped away from him because his agent discouraged him from participating due to financial reasons. Michael Mann could only offer such a meager sum that, according to the agent, Val could earn the same amount in 1 day on the Batman set. But upon hearing that Al Pacino and Robert De Niro were in Heat, Kilmer decided to join them. And not just on set, but also on the movie poster. He struck a deal with Mann. He'd act for a minimal fee if his photo was placed between De Niro's and Pacino's on the film's posters. Mann agreed. Following this, Kilmer, along with his star-studded colleagues, began preparations. At various stages, it included a trip to Folsom State Prison where, according to the plot, the robber heroes served their sentence. Reconnaissance in an actual bank where De Niro, Kilmer, and Tom Sizemore, staying in character and wearing bulletproof vests, entered with fake weapons to feel like the bad guys and practice the planned actions. And of course, shooting. Here, Val, familiar with his grandfather's arsenal since childhood, showcased such impressive skills that he was tasked with instructing the other actors. Kilmer's familiarity with automatic weapons is evident in the film. During the bank shootout, his character reloads at a record speed. By record, it's no exaggeration. Kilmer mentions hearing rumors that in a training camp in Pensacola, a sergeant shows this Heat scene and then taunts the new recruits.
"You gonna let some Top Gun peach bum actor live in La Vida Loca in Hollywood beat you at reloading your own weapon?"
In Heat, Val not only showcased excellent shooting, but also gave birth to a popular internet search associated with his name, Val Kilmer Elbow. In a scene where De Niro and Kilmer's characters philosophized about their life priorities, there's a noticeable dark bump on Kilmer's elbow. It turns out this was due to an injury Kilmer sustained during the filming of The Doors when he jumped off the stage unsuccessfully. Why Kilmer didn't treat the injury and let it get to such an unsightly state is another question, possibly linked to his fascination with Christian Science. This movement asserts that illness is an illusion and true faith is a guarantee of health. 20 years later, Christian Science would lead Kilmer into significant trouble. After Batman and Heat, Kilmer reached the peak of his popularity, but a crisis erupted in his private life. His wife, Joanne Whalley, filed for divorce. Right after their wedding, the couple decided that they wouldn't be apart and agreed that if, for instance, Val had shooting commitments, then Joanne would decline roles and accompany him. If Joanne was filming, Kilmer would accompany her. However, this arrangement didn't last long, and they soon began to work separately. This likely led to their divorce. Nonetheless, Val suffered more from having to share custody of their children than from the separation itself. In Kilmer's opinion, their divorce inflicted psychological trauma on their daughter and son. In such a depressed state, Kilmer arrived in Australia to film The Island of Dr. Moreau. There, he was met by his idol and master Brando, who had recently lost his daughter and had plunged deep into depression. What happened next is probably clear. The unsightly behavior of Brando and Kilmer even made it into the documentary Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau, whose duration of 1 hour and 37 minutes surpasses the original film's length. In short, Brando, as it is well known, was always a genius and a show-off, and Kilmer was his devoted follower. This time, Marlowe's worst side took over. Along with Val, they initially rejected the director, and then when Hollywood veteran John Frankenheimer came to replace him, they methodically began to dismantle the original script. Brando demanded to appear in a scene with an empty bucket on his head. Kilmer, in one scene, put a computer board on his. Brando asked for several extensive episodes with the dwarf Nelson de la Rosa, to whom he had taken a liking, and the writers complied, removing several characters from the plot and breaking the carefully constructed drama. It was also noted that Kilmer was drinking, and on one occasion allegedly burned a cameraman with a cigarette. When Frankenheimer finished filming the final scene, he said the following about Kilmer.
Now get that bastard off my set!
The island of Dr. Moreau was lackluster and unprofitable, yet Kilmer moved on. He was no longer in Australia, but in Africa, where he began work on the safari horror, The Ghost and the Darkness. What's interesting about this film is that it is based on the story of engineer John Patterson, who in 1898, while working on a bridge construction in Kenya, killed 2 man-eating lions. Moreover, despite its unique plot, the script had wandered around the studios for 6 years since most major stars were hesitant to take part in it. Why? Likely because the plot seemed less like a Universal Hollywood film for a broad audience, and more like an adventurous horror for genre enthusiasts. The fact that Kilmer and Michael Douglas joined the project saved it. The director later remarked that Kilmer worked compliantly under tough conditions, while Douglas had the scriptwriters rework the material to expand his character's screen time. To clarify, Kilmer had always loved Africa throughout his life and frequently visited whenever possible. For him, shooting on the Dark Continent was as much a vacation as it was work. As for Douglas, not only did he take on a secondary role in the film, but he also functioned as a producer. His desire to modify the script was partly driven by marketing considerations. In the story, Kilmer's character was an English engineer, while Douglas's character initially didn't even have a human name and was referred to in the script by the nickname Redbeard. Later, he was given the name Remington, and Michael decided to emphasize his American origin and increase his on-screen presence. This was done because American films without American protagonists often don't fare well in the US. Nevertheless, even this couldn't save The Ghost in the Darkness from failure. While today the film has an almost cult-like status, upon its release it couldn't earn enough to cover its production costs. Kilmer performed at his usual, which is to say very high standard in this film, but his character, a righteous and bland engineer, is overshadowed as soon as the heartbroken hunter played by Douglas appears in the second half of the film. Whether intentional or not, Michael stole the show from Val. Until a certain point, Kilmer's films weren't huge moneymakers but garnered high viewers and critical ratings. Now, films began to appear in his career that yielded neither. One such film was the adventure action movie The Saint, a full-length adaptation of the famous English TV series of the same name starring Roger Moore, based on Leslie Charteris' series of books about the international class thief Simon Templar. As always, Kilmer was attracted to the project by the opportunity to showcase his acting talents. In the plot, the Saint constantly changes disguises, imitated voices, and in general, besides fights and chases, played out the infamous drama of a tormented hero trying to escape a traumatic past by taking on the identities of others. Val met this challenge, but no more. However, where he once again outdid himself was in his prima donna attitude. It is known that Kilmer constantly revised the script, and during the shooting, one of the film's producers, David Brown, who was sympathetic to the actor, was removed from production. But all of this paled in comparison to the story about the sweater, in which Val's character went on dates with the English physicist played by Elizabeth Shue. According to one version, Kilmer reviewed 100 sweaters before settling on the one suitable for the scene, in moss green style. According to another, there were more sweaters, about 1,000, and the costume designer had to fly to Australia to find the right one, as a result of which the already sizable budget of $70 million supposedly ballooned by an additional $100,000. In general, despite his talent, Val once again spoiled the movie and, it must be said, indirectly admitted his guilt. As Roger Moore recalled, meeting Kilmer at the Cannes Festival, he heard from the actor.
Boy, we really messed that up, didn't we?
Kilmer said. When Moore asked what he meant, Val replied,
Well, after we finished filming, I went and read the stories. Those were some damn good stories.
Moore didn't argue. Besides The Saint in the late 90s, Kilmer also appeared in the melodrama At First Sight, where he played a blind man, and in the sci-fi Red Planet, where he appeared as a space mechanic. Both films suffered major losses, and on Red Planet, Val made another big scandal. From the very beginning of filming, which took place in the Australian deserts, the actor spent hours in his trailer waiting for necessary changes to the script, hindering the $75 million production. Since the director was a newcomer, the only actor who had any weight and could reprimand him was his co-star Tom Sizemore. By the time the crew moved to Sydney to shoot the final scenes, the relationship between the actors had reached a boiling point. A Red Planet producer called Sizemore's assistant and asked that if a fight broke out, Tom shouldn't hit Val in the face because the movie still needed to be completed, and it was uncertain if makeup could cover the bruises. Soon, the boiling point was reached. As Sizemore later claimed, Kilmer again sat in his trailer, this time for 9 straight hours. When he finally came out, he was in a very bad mood, which was literally felt by an assistant who took too long with the prompts. "Dumb bitch," Kilmer said, flinging a cigarette butt at her. Witnessing this, Sizemore, who was standing nearby, first punched Kilmer in the chest, and when Val fell, began hitting him in other parts of his body. Once the scuffle ended, Kilmer headed to the emergency room, after which he obtained a restraining order. Based on this order, Sizemore was not allowed to approach him. Given that both actors were playing lead characters trying to evacuate Mars in the plot, this further complicated filming. Red Planet was Kilmer's last major film. Over the following 5 years, Val seemed to hover between fading heights of Hollywood and the looming bottom of B-movies. However, before his fall, he landed leading roles in 3 respectable mid-budget films: The Salton Sea, Wonderland, and Spartan. Spartan was particularly unique as it showcased the unglamorous side of Special Forces work. Much of its brilliance is credited to the writer and director David Mamet, known for his meticulously crafted scripts. In this film, Kilmer delivers a convincing portrayal of a special operative, paying keen attention, as usual, to the technicalities, handling weapons, and physical training. Wonderland was a surprising role for Val, where he portrayed the prolific adult industry worker John Holmes. Initially, Kilmer was hesitant to play such a character, but the film wasn't so much about Holmes as it was about the infamous Wonderland Avenue crime. Thus, he agreed. As for The Salton Sea, this film is arguably the best of the 3. It tells the story of a jazz musician who has lost a loved one. Kilmer, having lost a younger brother in real life, was drawn to the script as it allowed him a platform to express his grief. The Salton Sea showcased the full range of Kilmer's acting abilities, and with the stylish direction of DJ Caruso, critics now consider this crime drama one of the most underrated films of the 2000s. During those years, the actor concurrently took on secondary and tertiary roles in Hollywood films. It appears that most of these projects enlisted him due to past connections. Tony Scott, with whom Kilmer collaborated on Top Gun, cast the actor in Déjà Vu, while Oliver Stone brought him on board for Alexander. On the set of the latter, Kilmer met Angelina Jolie, then arguably the world's most popular woman. In reality, Val had crossed paths with the actress back in the 90s when she was starting her career with edgy roles in Gia and Girl Interrupted. At the time, their interaction had been limited to a few compliments from Kilmer. This time, things went a bit further. In interviews, Kilmer enthusiastically spoke of his friend Angelina, dropping vague Freudian hints about currently wearing a purple shirt and soon asking Angelina to touch it with her hands. He later described the actress as a postmodern Madonna and claimed he'd like to buy an airplane with V+J emblazoned on it. It was quite revealing, but Jolie made no public comments. A year after Alexander, on the set of the action movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the postmodern Madonna met Brad Pitt and preferred this married actor over the single Kilmer. Meanwhile, Kilmer's life challenges continued, now moving from the professional sphere to the financial. In 2008, the global economic crisis occurred, bankrupting some and severely impacting others. Kilmer was no exception. Since the mid-90s, he owned a massive 6,000-acre piece of land in the picturesque valley of New Mexico, where he enjoyed secluded leisure and time with his growing children. Now he couldn't maintain it. The actor first wanted to sell the land for $30 million, its real value, he believed, but a financial consultant told him that he'd be lucky to get even $15 million. After selling the ranch and keeping a symbolic 14 acres, Val relocated to Malibu, where he rented a house on the coast. Falling out of the competitive Hollywood environment, the actor let himself go and gained significant weight. However, he continued working, now primarily for the money. The titles of the films in which he starred in the latter half of the 2000s and early 2010s speak for themselves: Moscow Zero, Hardwired, Double Identity, The Steam Experiment, Streets of Blood. On the set of the latter, Val met rapper Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. According to Kilmer, despite his stage image, 50 Cent in real life is kind and sensitive. Kilmer gave acting tips to the rapper who, touched by the lesson from a living cinema legend, gifted Val a vintage 1965 Impala convertible. After that, Kilmer appeared in 2 more of 50 Cent's movies, Gun and Blood Out. He made an interesting remark about his role in the latter. When in one of the scenes his criminal character appeared with disheveled hair, he remembered Brando, smiled, and thought the low-budget films could be quite moving after all. It sounded as if Val planned to become, if not the king, Nicolas Cage became the king, then the crown prince of trashy films. During the same years, the actor starred in one of his last artistic films, the drama Twixt by Francis Ford Coppola. Once upon a time, Coppola invited a young Val to his movie The Outsiders, and the actor declined. But now, Kilmer responded to the call immediately. However, no miracle occurred. Twixt is a deeply personal film for Coppola, exploring the pain he felt when he learned of his first son's tragic boating accident. In the film, Kilmer plays the character Hal Baltimore, the bargain basement Stephen King. The film has several memorable scenes, especially one where Baltimore, after downing several glasses of whiskey, tries to write a new novel. In other movies, there's often an unrealistic cliche suggesting alcohol fuels creativity, but with Coppola and Kilmer, a more realistic picture is painted. The more Baltimore drinks, the worse he writes. Eventually, getting totally inebriated, the character starts to parody voices of famous actors, including his favorite, Brando.
The fog on the lake was like the straight edge razor.
Kilmer never particularly focused on his health. There are numerous photos capturing him with a cigarette, and stories from the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau suggest he was no stranger to drinking. In 2015, he began experiencing throat pains and breathing difficulties, but he didn't seek medical attention, as it was well known he was a follower of Christian Science, which believes that Christians shouldn't need to consult doctors. Val prayed. On one occasion, while staying at Cher's mansion, he woke up in the middle of the night to find his bed soaked in blood. Later, with his cinematic mindset, Kilmer compared this scene to the famous episode from The Godfather, where a film executive discovers a horse's severed head in his bed. Val prayed again, and then dialed 911 in that order, and waited for the doctor and the house's owner. They took him to the hospital, and soon after, his family arrived. Under strong pressure from his son and daughter, he decided to start medical treatment, and Cher secured the best doctors for him. Kilmer was diagnosed with an advanced form of throat cancer and was now facing a grueling marathon, 2 surgeries, and courses of chemo and radiation therapy. At first, Val hid his illness from the public, leading to an awkward situation. Michael Douglas, Kilmer's co-star from The Ghost and the Darkness and a cancer survivor himself, mentioned that Val was battling cancer. However, for some reason, Kilmer denied it. Nevertheless, photos and videos taken by journalists spoke louder than words. They clearly showed that Kilmer wore a neck scarf and had lost significant weight. 5 years after his diagnosis, with a device attached to his throat broadcasting his raspy voice, Kilmer announced his recovery.
Next version, I feel.
The actor moved to a specially equipped studio where he began creating paintings and collages, many of which seemed to be inspired by the films he starred in and the famous people he's known. He started selling his artwork, and the business seemed to pick up. There were people willing to pay for his creations, likely not so much for the value of the art itself, but for the appeal that they were made by Kilmer. As for Val himself, he holds no illusions about the future. He says his acting career is essentially over. With sporadic appearances from Val, a few B-list movies have been released, such as the action film Pay Dirt. Kilmer's daughter claims this film will bring a shift in the entertainment industry since it stars an actor with disabilities, namely her father. Moreover, Val appeared in a few episodes of the Top Gun sequel where his character uttered a few farewell words with his weakened voice. Lately, more has been said about Kilmer in connection with his autobiographical legacy. He published memoirs titled I'm Your Huckleberry, and in collaboration with his son, released a documentary film Val, made up of amateur video recordings from various years and film shots capturing a young, handsome Kilmer full of hopes for the future.